Good evening. Well, in common with the last government, there is a target to build 1.5 million homes during the lifetime of this Parliament. It's just that Labour seem to be rather more determined to do it because they are quite prepared to totally override local district, county councils, local unitary authorities. They are just going to do it. And this includes redefinitions of what counts as green belt land. Some of it potentially being designated as being grey belt. Now, if this comes to disused garages or empty car parks or vacant pubs, well, you might say that all makes sense. But there will be, especially across the home counties, real, genuine worry about what it means for green spaces, about what it means for gaps in between villages. And by the way, when all these houses get built, there'll be no more GPs, no more school places, no more roads. No, your quality of life will diminish directly as a result of this. Now, whether they can actually meet the target, I very much doubt, without importing huge amounts of foreign labour, which of course in turn will mean even more demand for houses. Right now, we have to provide one new home every 2 minutes just to keep pace with levels of immigration in this country. So the truth of it is, we must build every greenbelt land all over our nation just to house those that have come into this country in the course of the last 10 years. However, we have a serious housing shortage. What are we to do?
Nigel Farage's scathing condemnation of Labour's housing policy exposes the reckless disregard the party has for local communities and the long-term well-being of the country. Labour's determination to force through the construction of 1.5 million homes, regardless of local opposition or environmental consequences, is emblematic of their top-down authoritarian approach to governance. By overriding local councils and redefining greenbelt land as grey belt, Labour shows a shocking willingness to bulldoze over not only cherished green spaces, but also the voices of the very people they claim to represent. This heavy-handed strategy reveals Labour's complete disinterest in collaboration or compromise, prioritizing political optics over practical, sustainable solutions. Labour's plan, driven by its obsession with rapid expansion, blatantly ignores the glaring reality that the infrastructure to support such housing simply doesn't exist. Where are the new schools, GEPs, and roads to support these developments? Nowhere in Labour's chaotic vision is there any mention of how to address the inevitable strain on public services, which are already buckling under pressure. The result, a direct and dramatic decline in the quality of life for ordinary Britons. Labour, as usual, operates with an air of arrogance, assuming they can solve complex problems by simply throwing more houses at them, without addressing the root causes of the housing shortage or considering the broader societal impact. Farage's point about immigration drives home Labour's utter incompetence. The housing crisis has been exacerbated by a decade of uncontrolled immigration, much of it championed by Labour's soft border policies. Now, instead of acknowledging their role in creating this crisis, they expect the British public to accept the destruction of their green spaces just to accommodate the ever-growing demand for housing. Labour's reliance on foreign labour to meet construction targets only deepens the cycle, ensuring that housing demand will outstrip supply indefinitely. This isn't a housing policy, it's a recipe for perpetual decline. Labour's approach demonstrates a profound disconnect from the values and concerns of everyday citizens. They are a party so blinded by ideological dogma and power-hungry ambition that they are willing to sacrifice the countryside, erode community identities, and crush the quality of life for millions. It is a disgraceful, short-sighted strategy that epitomizes Labour's historic inability to govern responsibly. In their desperation to appear proactive, they have revealed their true nature, a party that thrives on chaos, disregards public opinion, and views the British people not as individuals to be served, but as obstacles to be overridden. Now let's get to the next news. Angela Rayner's ambitious plan to build 1.5 million homes has been slammed by top Tories who argue most will go to migrants. As Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary, Rayner reiterated Labour's commitment in a recent interview, but critics accused her of spreading misinformation. Opposition claims suggest hidden motives behind the housing initiative. Stay tuned for updates.
So 500 million for the Affordable Homes Programme. We've already allowed flexibility with that, so we get thousands more affordable homes on the market.
It's nowhere near enough for councils to build the number of affordable homes that the country needs, is it?
Well, we've made changes and put more funding in, and we also made sure that councils could keep their right to buy receipts in full so that they can increase their stock as well. So there's a number of measures we've taken which will mean we'll build the biggest amount of affordable and social housing for a generation. You can't put an exact figure on each site because it very much depends on the viability and the size of the site and what becomes available. But we're very clear that home ownership needs to be delivered for those that have just had that dream snatched away from them, and we're going to deliver that.
Angela Rayner's ITV interview on Labour's affordable housing programme has faced widespread criticism, with many accusing her of misleading the public and offering little more than empty promises. Rayner highlighted a $500 million funding allocation and flexible measures, claiming they would lead to thousands more affordable homes and the biggest amount of social housing for a generation. However, critics have ridiculed these claims as insufficient to address the scale of the housing crisis. They argue that the funding barely scratches the surface of what's needed to meet the growing demand for affordable housing across the country. Rayner's attempt to present measures such as councils retaining right to buy receipts as a major step forward has also been met with skepticism. Critics pointed out the lack of specific figures or detailed plans on how many homes would actually be built. Her vague comments about site viability and availability further reinforced perceptions that she was evading accountability while trying to sell an overly optimistic narrative. Her promise to deliver home ownership for those who have had that dream snatched away was widely dismissed as hollow rhetoric that failed to address deeper issues, including chronic underfunding and an over-reliance on private developers to fill the gaps. Beyond the immediate housing concerns, critics highlighted a glaring disconnect between Rayner's sweeping rhetoric and the harsh realities faced by communities struggling with shortages in public services and infrastructure. They argued that her inability to address these broader challenges demonstrated Labour's lack of a serious, actionable housing strategy. Instead of offering genuine solutions, her comments were seen as little more than political spin, designed to deflect attention from Labour's own shortcomings in policy development. Rayner's performance has drawn sharp criticism as emblematic of style over substance in politics. Her sweeping promises, combined with a lack of actionable details, have significantly undermined her credibility. Far from providing hope for tackling one of the nation's most pressing issues, her interview instead exposed Labour's housing policy as superficial and out of touch with reality. Critics have characterized her approach as detached theatrics, focused on optics rather than meaningful reform. Meanwhile, independent MP Iqbal Muhammad has stirred significant controversy by advocating for taxpayer-funded NAS support to make it safer for individuals to marry their first cousins. His remarks have sparked ethical and social debates, with many questioning the implications of such a policy. Watch the clip to explore the full context and form your own opinion. Thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts or opinions, feel free to share them in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more updates, and join us on Telegram for exclusive content and discussions. Your support means a lot.